So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us James Purcell, who's managing director at Love Warranty. So, James, firstly, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Love Warranty, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. But first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for having me on here, Chris.
Well,
It's my pleasure. So, as you said, I am the managing director, and Love Warranty is revolutionizing the warranty industry one dealer at a time.
brilliant.
I'm not sure if you've heard about used car warranties, but in the UK today, they have, unfortunately, a terrible reputation. And
Yeah,
that's because for many, many years, lots and lots of big companies have been getting fatter and fatter off the back of car dealers throughout the UK. So,
right.
in an industry that is archaic, we're bringing technology. In an industry that really needs it, we're bringing transparency, because at best, it's opaque for the consumers and the dealers at the minute.
Brilliant, brilliant. And you were saying before we started, it's an industry that's unregulated, which obviously
Yeah.
means that it has the capacity for people to take advantage and do things that are outside of the norm. I guess I would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really is a quite opaque to say the least. So
Yeah,
we're operating what's called a dealer guarantee scheme, so that the dealership appoints us as their administrator to look after their customers for a
brilliant,
set time, whether it's 3, 6, 12, 24, or 36 months. And during that time, if any claims come in, we will then handle that claim on behalf of the dealer and pay out that claim to the repairing garage.
brilliant.
But it's quite a grey area in that a lot of the customers themselves think that we're the underwriter, but in
Right.
truth, it's actually the selling dealer that is the underwriter and we're merely the administrator.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Um, Fascinating, and obviously
Yeah.
revolutionising your industry. I've obviously been in a website looking at it, and you mentioned the use of AI and various things.
Yeah.
It's obviously a fascinating place to be right now.
It is, yeah. And the first thing dealers say to me when I walk in and say, "Look, we are revolutionising the industry," say, "Well, your prices are similar to the current products that are being delivered by the current companies. So how are you able to cover more items and pay more claims?" And I say, "That's simple. We charge a lower administration fee. So we take less out of every pound than your current
Brilliant.
provider, which means there's more in the till to pay more claims." And then you say, well, your customer service is better than theirs as well. So how can you provide a better level of customer service? And say, well, that's simple as well. We're using technology. So by having things like a digital ledger where they can check every single claim that's been logged, having technology at making decisions on claims for us now. We've also got an AI call handler. All of these
Right.
things are just cutting out costs for us as a business, which enables us to provide a better service for the dealer.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, James, if we perhaps start looking backwards for now, could you tell us how you got in, a bit about your background, how you
Mhm.
got into business, and why this particular one for you?
So I didn't grow up as a little kid thinking, "Oh, I want to be an MD of a warranty company," that's for sure. But when I was young, I was always surrounded by grafters. My dad's always worked. He's had multiple business, some successful, some not. My mother, for example, even had a pie factory when I got to 16 and had that for 10 years. So I've
Brilliant.
always grown up in Yorkshire around people that work hard and
Yeah.
want to do well. And when I was young, my passion was always sport. So when I was playing sport, I felt real freedom. I was part of a
Yeah.
team. I knew when I turned up that I was a valued member of that team,
Yeah.
and I always put everything in. And it just so happens that having my own business was that vehicle for me to have that freedom.
Yeah.
And that's what really motivates me is to have freedom ultimately, because we work really, really hard on ourselves, on our businesses, but it just gives us that freedom to make decisions. Whereas if you're working for another company or a large organization, you often don't have the freedom that you can
Yeah.
enjoy when you're running a small business.
There is so much more flexibility in a small
Yeah,
business, isn't there? Especially the ownership of it. And
yeah,
I often say to the people I work with, um, the challenge of owning your own business is ultimately the buck stops with us
yeah,
until one day, which is something we help with. We've got somebody else for whom it might stick for. But
yeah,
the great thing, James, about running your own business is you get to choose exactly how it is,
yeah. It is.
how we work, how our team work, the customers we work with, and that's such a freedom, as you say, that we get to choose, which
Yeah, it
is
is.
as I say, it's a bit of a blessing. It's maybe a little bit of a curse too, but that's the
Yeah.
all the good stuff normally comes with a bit of challenge. So
Exactly.
speaking of challenges, what so as you've grown the business, what are some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome?
So when you're ever trying to implement change, it's often met with resistance,
Yes.
and the systems of car dealers themselves are so archaic. They're so far behind where they could be. It's slowly educating them
Yeah.
day at a time. This is how we can work in moving forwards. Make sure you prep your vehicles. Make sure you do all your PDI checks. Make sure that every cross every dot and every I, and then once it comes to the customer having a claim,
Yeah.
we'll look after them. But we need to make sure that everything's done properly right from the start. All the contracts are signed. Everything is written down on paper. They understand what we're going to deliver to them. They
Brilliant.
understand what they've got to deliver to us. 'Cause it's a two-way street. We can't just pay every single claim unless they hit their targets of 33% upsells. Make sure you give away on every single product, and then it works. It's proven. The
Yeah.
blueprint works, but it's getting people to stick to it because by all accounts, dealers miss things. We miss things. We're human beings, aren't we? But if you've sold a car 6 months ago and then a claim comes in, and then all of a sudden there's a warranty logged, and then you want to make a claim on it, we have to have a discussion about doing your admin properly. And
Yes.
it's really difficult sometimes educating dealers as to what the processes are on their side as well as what the processes are on our side. It's a two-way street.
That makes sense. That makes absolute sense. And looking at sort of growth of business, what are the biggest things you've learned about growing and running a successful business?
I think the biggest thing I've learned about growing a business is always promise exactly what you can deliver and then exceed it. So under
Yeah.
promise and over deliver. A lot of people will go in and say, right, we're going to increase your upsell from 10% to 80%. We're going to give you all of these tools, but then they can't deliver. And it's delivering on your promises. That's the most
Yeah.
important thing I've found in growing a business. If you go in and deliver your promise, as they will continue to use you and be loyal to you for years and years to come. And then car dealers talk, so then they'll go tell
Yes.
their friends at the auction or their friends when they're in the pub that are car dealers. So we're growing through word of mouth and reputation. I think that's the best way to grow a business because we're totally self-funded. Me and my father, Barry, who was one of the other founders, took £50,000 in for personal loans to pay the developers to actually build the MVP product so we
Wow.
could log warranties. But it was MVP, really was, Chris. We couldn't even get an invoice off the database. I was hand doing the invoices to start with. We couldn't log claims on there. So as we grew the business, we were constantly paying the developers to
Yeah.
continue building the platform for us.
That's quite a
That,
difficult, challenging thing, isn't it,
yeah,
James? Is that keeping going and filling the gaps and oh my goodness,
yeah, building it from the ground up.
yeah, must have been quite an interesting time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm just keen to know who the best coaches you work with, whether that's business, sport you mentioned, or life in general. Who's
Yeah.
had the biggest impact on you?
I think in terms of business, my mistakes have been the biggest impact on myself because
Yeah.
they cost me money and I will learn fast when it's costing me money.
Yes.
But in terms of actual life, I think when I was a young sportsman, I was lucky enough to go to a school where Stuart Lancaster coached, went on to be the England rugby union coach.
Yep.
And then since leaving school, I'd have to say my current coach, which is Paul Bedford, I've worked with him for like 15 years now at Wakefield CrossFit. He knows
Yes.
more about the human body and how to make it better when it's broken than anyone I know. And now I've got to 40 and I'm still wanting to lift heavy and things like that. It's more important having the maintenance side of things than it is going in and going in at 100 miles an hour at everything. It's
Yep.
keeping you in one piece, and that's what he's helping me to do.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And whether it's from any of the coaches or just life in general, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using a lot about success or about life?
Where there's a will, there's a way. I always like to say that. It's when you wake up in the morning, you see some people dragging their feet, thinking, oh, it's never going to happen. But if you have a really positive outlook
Yep.
towards things, and it's the universe, if you put it out to the universe, it will give it back somehow. You've just got to get up and put one foot in front of the other and
Love it.
remain positive. So where there is a will, there is a way, Chris.
Love it. Love it, James. I think there's a saying from bum, 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 Henry Ford, which sits alongside that really well, which is
Mm.
whether we think we can or think we can't, we're right.
Yeah, it's
And I
good.
think it's that get up, keep going. Can I? Yes. And
Mm.
and, and if we think we can, then the question becomes how can I rather than can I, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. Can I do this or not? No, how can I do this?
yeah.
Wonderful, love it. Yeah, one step after another. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Mm.
And on the learning front again, do you have any favorite books or podcasts on business or success that you recommend?
I'd suggest Atomic Habits. That's probably one of my favorite books. I
James
think,
Clear, brilliant.
yeah, I've read that a couple of times. In terms of podcasts, I think I do like listening to podcasts, but I tend to prefer picking up a book just because I tend to do it just before I go to bed, so it relaxes me. But I definitely recommend Atomic Habits. And just touching on what you said about Henry Ford, when he invented the motor car, people didn't want what they wanted was faster horses, but he
After
gave them the
horses,
motor car. And this is what I tell the dealers, like, you're
great.
using a horse and cart for a system. We have a spaceship, but now we need data and people to come on board. But it's still met with resistance, even though we are a small company. I understand that. And obviously, it's still early days. We're 2.5 years now into the journey.
Well
But
done.
it's changing attitudes that for so long people have done the same thing. It's like, this is something new. Oh, I'm not sure. It's the same thing that Henry went through when he brought his car out and then everyone realized they wanted a car.
Brilliant, but what a great analogy because you're bringing it's. I always say to people, if you want to communicate effectively, trying to communicate in that for their world. And
Yeah,
obviously, you're talking cars, you're talking car dealerships. That's what Henry Ford said. You're absolutely right,
yeah,
and it's a great quote. Is there? They want a faster horse. Well, of course, because
yeah.
they didn't really they didn't really know what the alternate looked like. Um, wonderful, and just sort of keep me on the learning theme, James. What would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Um, Probably that I'm a lot more resilient than I thought I was. When you start a journey like this, you think, oh, well, I'll need this to be in place, I'll need that to be in place. But realistically, you just need to be very tenacious, stick to the plan. Sometimes the plan doesn't work, so you go to plan B, but it's just stick to the plan and be very tenacious because I was one of these people that always thought, oh, everything's got to be right before we set off. But realistically, the sooner you set off, the better, because then the sooner you learn about yourself, you sooner learn about what you need to improve.
Yeah,
I was an account manager, so it was a big step up for me from being an account manager, just looking after the sales and
yeah,
the queries and the administration to then running the whole show for the accounts that I did run. It was a massive step up, and
yes,
I think I've learned that you've got to give and take in business. It's a mutual transactional relationship, and
yeah,
obviously it's just like gambling. If you went to the casino and the casino lost every night, the casino won't open. So the casino has to win some nights as well, and that's
yes.
what I would say to the dealers. You know, we are a business, and I actually was lucky enough to go to Las Vegas this year for my 40th, and they've built a fantastic business, and it's all been built off people going and having a good time. And you know, that's
Absolutely.
exactly what we're trying to do, is give people peace of mind, but also make sure that we pay out the claims, but also build a fantastic business so it goes on and on for years to come.
No, brilliant. I absolutely bang on the win-win. I do
Yeah.
remember from my first business, a client came in, and I remember them saying, "Oh, you're a lot more expensive than your competitor," and
Mm.
and the first part isn't directly related to this, but the first part I said, "Well, that's really interesting. I'm surprised because we priced it out pretty well."
Yeah.
So I said something like, "Well, I bet you're going to be paying for it somewhere,"
Mm.
and it was software. So they remember this. Well, actually, there is a very long, quite costly maintenance contract that goes alongside it. And I said,
Mm.
well, okay, but and one thing I said to him, I said, look, just so we're all clear, you need us to make a healthy profit because
Mm.
you need us to be around for the long term. If you try and screw our
Definitely.
margins down too far, then there's no point us being
Yeah.
continuing the business. So that is a win. I completely agree. It's a win-win. I think businesses shouldn't be afraid of making and declaring healthy profits because we need those. That's the point of a business ultimately, is to
Yeah.
make some money. And if we're making so little it's not worth it, then Yeah, it becomes a bit of a pointless exercise, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. The free wins, that's what we always talk about. The dealer wins, the customer wins, and the warranty wins. And
Brilliant.
working on that on a daily basis, Chris.
And win-win is best. So much more is done when
Mm.
everybody wins than
Yeah,
this sort of competitive situation, James, where if I'm going to win, you've got to lose.
yeah,
And too many people, unfortunately, adopt that attitude that I'm only going to win if I think you've lost,
yeah,
and over negotiate, over batter people down.
yeah.
Whereas we all need a bit, otherwise it's a pointless exercise. And
I
obviously,
agree.
people like yourself, if that happens, then we've got to decide what's the point of being in business if we can't make a
Yeah,
certain and a reasonable fair amount of money.
yeah.
So one thing, James, we have a phrase in Action Coach, that about a business, and it basically says a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works
Mhm.
without its owners.
Yeah.
Now, we'll put can in there because it's like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's eventually the business will have to be like that, but right now it needs me in it, to be
Yep,
honest with you. We're
totally get that.
yeah, we're two and a half years down the journey so far. And I would love to be working on the business more and not in the business.
Yep,
So I went to meet and had the pleasure of spending an hour or two with Richard Harpin, and he went through his 9 steps to being a billionaire at
brilliant.
his growth partnership workshop.
Yes,
And I see it that we've done the copy and pivot. We're now looking for an investor, and then it's time for me to get some coachment and work on the business and not in the business. But we're
brilliant.
just sort of preparing our second year accounts now, and then we'll go for Series A investment. At that point, we will bring in some team members that will be able to run the business, and then I can work on the business. And it's about finding my replacing my hire and getting
Yeah.
someone in to do my role so I can work on the business and not in it.
Brilliant. Yeah, I often say to people that in the growth curve that you're on is that we can get to a certain level of success with a few
Hmm.
good people in sheer blood and guts. You know,
Yeah,
don't need systems of it's just like let's just get our heads down, bums up,
yeah,
work as hard as we can. But there does become a time, and there is a danger here that when we get to that point where we are on that sort of take-off curve,
yeah,
it's because our mindset is it has to be, and it is sensibly, I've got here because of how hard I worked. It
yeah,
doesn't mean it's all about how hard I work moving forward because we become the bottleneck. If
yeah.
it's
That's
if it's
true.
about how hard we work and we run out of time, then the business
Yeah,
can't grow. So
yeah,
it's important to be able to transition. And I think that's a mindset issue more than anything of doing that. And it's a big part of what we often work with people on is starting to switch off. The immediate reaction is, what do I do?
hmm,
To who else could do this? Who else have
yeah,
I got in my team? Because my
yeah,
job is leadership, my job is
yeah,
strategy, my job is working on, not in. So
yeah.
well, absolutely wonderful. So then looking for you mentioned a little bit, but looking forward, what alongside the investment, but from a business perspective, what does the future hold for you guys, and what do you think the main challenges are, if any?
I think that one of the main challenges we're going to come up against in the next sort of 12 months is the used car industry is going to be getting stronger and stronger in terms of the price of the used cars, but I'm calling them COVID cars, Chris, where cars built after sort of 2019, they don't have the same build quality. So I had an A6 Audi Avant that was 2017. All I had ever go wrong with that was a wiper motor and a fuel actuator cap. Now we're seeing cars that are getting major faults like starter motors,
Oh,
turbos, and these are only 3-year-old cars. So I
interesting.
honestly think that there's going to be a lot more claims coming in, larger claims for the newer vehicles once they sort of the 2020 cars get to 23, 6 years old. I think we're going to see a lot of vehicles claiming, and for us as a company, that means that our costs are going to go up. So then ultimately we have to pass that cost on. So then it's a challenging conversation with our dealers to
Yes.
say, look, the quality of the cars that the manufacturers are turning out are not as good quality as they were. The dealers are going to be very upset because then they have to either pay more for the giveaway or they have to sell it for more on the customers and then pushing back to them. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges is educating customers as to
Yeah.
what it costs to maintain a vehicle.
Yep.
And then the labour rates now, the average labour rate, even in Yorkshire, is probably £90 plus VAT an hour,
Yep.
which is a lot of money, even if you're only paying for a 4-hour repair. a lot of people have these barriers in their head, like, oh, I wouldn't pay more than £500 for it for a year's warranty. But in truth, that doesn't even cover the labour on most jobs now. So it's education, and
Yes.
it's that's going to be the biggest challenge: is educating the consumer as to what needs to be paid to
Yeah.
protect themselves properly.
That's fascinating. You've got me thinking about how old my car is now. As I'm just trying to click away, because I think it is 20. Yeah. But a great advert for, unfortunately, I say a couple of years ago, I had to get rid of my 20-year-old Merc.
Yeah.
And it's like it was an old, it was like an old armchair. So, old isn't always worst.
How many miles did you put on it?
It had about 160,000 miles on it by the time it went.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I think I put 160. I think I put about 90 of those on, if that makes sense. I just
Yeah.
loved, absolutely loved it.
Excellent.
I didn't treat it very well, I'll be honest. I'm not very good with my cars, but
You
it
didn't miss a
treated me.
service, did you?
Sorry?
Did you miss a service?
I didn't miss a service. No,
That's all right then.
I made sure I serviced it every time. It ultimately did start to fall apart.
Yeah.
But that's, 20 years in. I don't blame it. I didn't, as I said, I didn't treat it very well. I loved it to bits. I didn't want to get rid of it. In all honesty, it just
Yeah.
got to that point where the cost of ongoing repairs was going to be more than
Yeah.
the value of the car in most ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, well, interesting. So because I obviously familiar the idea they used to call them Friday afternoon cars, I think, or something, didn't they? When the idea that the Friday afternoon shift wasn't going to do such a good job as the rest of the week. But you're saying in COVID, as a result of COVID, a lot of the quality is reduced.
Yeah, absolutely. From like 2019 onwards, the vehicles that we're seeing now, we're getting much
Interesting.
larger claims much sooner. So most manufacturers will cover the vehicle up to 3 years or up to 60,000
Yes.
miles. And there's a reason why they do that,
Yeah.
because the cars are built to last that sort of duration. And
Yes.
that's why it's important to protect yourself after that
Yeah.
period, because when it does hit you, it can hit you hard with
Yeah.
some of the claims that we're seeing. So we're trying to educate people that it's really
Brilliant.
important to not just have your, obviously insurance is a non-negotiable. You have to insure your car, but
Yes.
we're trying to educate people that you have to protect yourself against unexpected mechanical and electrical failures, because they do happen. There's 20,000 moving parts in a vehicle. With all the will in the world, it's only a matter of time of when it fails, not if. So you need to have something in place.
Makes perfect sense. Make perfect sense. And James, I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
I'd say do it. Don't romanticize it. If you got to be prepared for late nights,
Yeah,
stress, a lot of questioning yourself, self-doubt. But if you stick to it and you stay true to the cause and deliver on what you say you were going to do, then the rewards will be fantastic at the end. And we're still going through that, all those experiences, I've just saying, every single day, because we're 2.5 years in, but it is getting better and better every single day.
brilliant.
And things are aligning. We've just last week, we've been bidding for 3 years on securing the rights to lovewarranty.com, and we bought it last week. So
Oh,
that for
congratulations.
us, for the future, you know what I'm thinking, don't you, Chris? The USA. So
Absolutely.
there's lots and lots of things going on that I won't tell you about, but I can tell you that one of the plans is to go to the USA. So
Brilliant.
that's a massive tick in the box, is getting the lovewarranty.com, and we're forming lovewarranty.inc this year. So by the end of the year, that'll be formed.
Fantastic. Oh, congratulations for that one.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And just looking back over the last 2.5 years, if you started again, is there anything significantly you do differently, James, do you think?
I'd probably have spent a lot more time with the solicitors doing the terms and conditions and the dealer contracts and things like that, because it was literally, let's get onto ChatGTP, let's form some agreements, let's get this thing up and running. Because
Yeah.
we sort of took advantage of the fact that it's not a non-regulated industry with the FCA and things like that.
Yes.
So we just
Yeah.
sort of said, look, as long as there are good terms and conditions and they're transparent, then we'll go with that. But we ended up spending a lot more because we spent money later fixing everything rather than at the start. But that's just one of the things that you learn when you start a business, and have to learn the hard way. Like you said, sometimes you learn from your mistakes.
I think it is. It's life. Interesting enough, I found Brad who's very, very successful man. He told me many years ago. It's always stuck with me, James. He said, Chris, I believe I'm as successful as I am because I've made more mistakes than anybody else I know.
Yeah,
Not despite it, but because of it. And it was that willingness to try stuff, to push the
yeah,
envelope from his perspective. So that's always stuck with me, is that it's okay. It's okay as long as I learn from the mistakes, but it's the willingness to go past the point of failure, if that makes sense,
yeah.
and
It
keep
does,
going.
and take those risks because a lot of people, if you look at all the grade A students from school that you went to, most of them end up working for grade C students because the grade C student will take the risk, whereas the grade A
Yep,
student is more risk averse, and he's obviously taken a lot of risks and learnt from his mistakes as well, rather than just
absolutely.
constantly not learning. So that's
Absolutely. But absolutely couldn't agree more. And final question, James, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time
keep
and do that?
keep going to the gym. That'd be the
Ah,
main. Definitely keep going to the gym, and don't worry too much about everything being perfect. I think if I was to talk to myself, then it'd be just keep going to the gym and don't worry about everything being perfect. Trust yourself and trust God's
brilliant.
plan.
Brilliant. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, James, it's been fascinating to talk to you. And thank you so much for sparing the time. And for anyone that's watching that would like to get in touch with you or Love Warranty, what's the best way of doing that?
So contact me at james@lovewarranty.co.uk, or you can go on our website www.lovewarranty.co.uk.
Brilliant. And soon2be.com. So
Yes.
absolutely wonderful. James, I say thank you so much for your time. It'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and see what's
Yeah.
going on, especially both with the investment and potentially overseas. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Chris.
Cheers.